Many years ago, I came across a few lines in a book that I connected with. They were, "It's easy to judge, but you never know another person's heart, what gives them strength and what breaks them down." I have learned to listen more and speak less. The result has been eye-opening conversations and inspirational moments that I have shared with you right here. Hello and welcome back to my channel. We are at Kampala Sheraton Hotel. Beautiful surroundings as always, and this show is brought to you by Roke Telcom. Make sure you get yourself a Roke Plus package so you're connected at home. Today I have someone who has so many hats in a way. She's the Managing Director of Consult East Africa. She's also the CEO of Bushfire Records. Some people know her for her music side as Miss Natty, but I think most of the people who know her since she was little know her as Pamela Reynell. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Crystal. I'm so excited to be here.
It's so nice to have you. My goodness. Do people call you Pam?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Pretty much everybody calls me
So
Pam.
if someone says Pamela.
Yeah. It's quite formal. Or maybe they're a little bit cross with me. But otherwise, everybody knows me as Pam.
As Pam.
Yeah.
Are you Ugandan? That's always the first question
I
ask.
know, because of the accent, right? Everybody asks me this. Yes, I am. I was born right here in Kampala, in Mulago Hospital, 1972. I'm proud of it. But then that was the regime of Idi Amin, and sadly, I lost my father to that regime, as did so many people. He was vice chancellor of Makerere at the time. And just disappeared one day in a black car, as so many people's fathers did. So my mum left and she went to the UK, got remarried, and so I ended up growing up in the UK, got the UK accent, the passport, to be on that.
Okay, that's clear now.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I came back to Uganda in 1998.
When you left, how old were you when you left?
I was about 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the adjustment wasn't too difficult.
Well, no, not really. It's a long story. We left when I was about 2, and we were in Kenya.
Okay.
And then from Kenya, we went to the UK. Then I came back with my mum for a couple of years, and then finally grew up in the UK from about 8, 9 years old. So I had that whole time of changing regimes, and you come home for the holidays, and there's a little coup d'etat in your country, and go back to boarding school in the UK.
So many people who can't relate to this at all.
Right? Yeah, hearing bullets and all that kind of drama. So
And
that
you
was kind
remember
of
that?
Yeah, that was my upbringing, and that was my formative years of teenage years. I'd be here in Kololo and in Mbarara, and it was crazy. Uganda was different. But then when we came back, I came back in 98 rather.
Did you come back with your mom?
No, my mom was already here. So my
Okay.
mom stayed in the 80s. I went and grew up with my stepfather and a stepmother. Complicated African families, but with white people.
Just right. What do you mean?
Well, my stepfather was British, so he was white.
Yes.
But that typical African family of different mothers and different families, different brothers and sisters from different mothers. That was my stepfather.
Okay.
So that was my scenario, but with a bunch of British people and white people growing up in the UK in a very white community and
Did you have a good
environment.
relationship with them?
With my step-parents? Yes, I did have. I mean, my stepfather did an amazing job for me. He gave me lots of opportunity, and I have 11 different half-step brothers and sisters. And
I'm sorry, I need to rearrange this. You said 11.
11.
Big family.
Big family. Big family.
Okay.
And for us as children, it didn't really matter who was whose daughter, child, mothers, different colors. We all got along. So.
Okay. So
Yeah.
a lot of your memories are also back in the UK, I guess. Some of your
Yes.
childhood friends. Where did you
Yes.
go to school?
I went to some really beautiful, typical English private schools. So the first one I went to was called Sherborne House.
Okay.
And that was in a little town called Eastleigh near Southampton on the southern coast in the UK. Then I went to an all-girls, proper all-girls boarding school in Bournemouth. Still on the coast, still nice and warm, and the best part of England, I would say. And then I went to university in Bristol.
Okay.
And then I ended up in London.
Okay. So
in
you
those
said an
days,
all-girls boarding school.
Proper.
Okay.
All-girls
What do you
boarding
mean by
school.
proper?
I mean all the uniform. I mean the
The
down to the
rules.
underwear that you had to wear and where you bought your uniform, and blazers and boaters and gloves to go to church. Yeah,
Gloves.
Gloves.
Okay.
Leather in the winter, my dear, and white in the summer.
Okay. We have very different childhoods.
Yeah, so that was me. Really.
So what did you want to do when you were little? Because you've always had such an artistic side.
Right. Well, that's really interesting, Crystal. The artistic side kind of blossomed and flourished when I came to Uganda.
Oh.
In the beginning, it was law. I wanted to do human rights law. I wanted to fix the world. I wanted to get into the UN. I felt I knew the answers to the world's problems, be it poverty, famine, refugees, all that kind of stuff. I was very, very passionate about that. So I studied law. That's what I wanted to do. And I went on to qualify as a barrister, which is
Okay.
an unusual thing in the UK. We don't have that here and we don't have that in the US. But in the UK, you have two different types of lawyers. Those who you see first, and then those who will represent you in court if you have to go to court.
Yeah.
So, when you see the wig and the my lord and all of that, those are barristers. So,
Okay, okay.
and I was passionate about human rights. And that's what brought me back, actually, to Uganda, because I realized, well, there's, kind of plenty to look at, to experience, to figure out, to think about when it came to human rights.
Okay. Had you already started practicing?
No, I didn't. I got married. I had my first child. And then I started looking for jobs. And it was pretty difficult, funnily enough.
Why was it? Because you had a small child?
Yes, because I had a small child, and because 20 years ago, as a young black woman, it was still very old-fashioned. They wanted men. They wanted, men who would join the firm and be in the firm forever. And I think
it was an issue that you were a woman?
yeah,
And then
yeah.
did you
and
ever feel the racist side?
Yes, it was definitely
Because people
there.
are having these conversations very openly now.
It was definitely there. It was definitely, oh my, you do speak English well. Meaning what? Right? And where are you from? People like, where are you from? Meaning what? So it was definitely there, but I think I was fortunate enough. The family I grew up in, the education I had, I was very privileged. So I kind of took it in my stride. I said, well, I think this can be an advantage. You won't forget my face. I stand out. I stick out. Take that on board. And I think it kind of helped in some ways. In some ways. But it was there. And then at this point, trying to get a job with a child, I think having a baby was the biggest thing, because it was difficult for me to work all those hours. It was difficult for me just to jump on a train and go anywhere, to any courthouse to pick up a case. And I think they were like, no, this one is now married, Bambi. She's going to just be home and have more babies. Why are we wasting our time with her? So I said, you know what, I can go home. I can go home. My mum's there, childcare, wonderful weather. It's much easier to raise a child here than it is in the UK.
Yes, it is. It is.
And suddenly the beautiful little apartment I had in London was not really beautiful for me with a child, and having to wash nappies and having nowhere to dry them and having 3 flights of stairs, and it became a whole different ball game. So we came back.
Okay. Say we. How did you meet your husband?
Oh, that's another story. It's hilarious. I met my husband in Spain. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, my stepfather had a home in Spain, and he was really good friends with my husband's grandmother, also living in Spain. I
Okay.
know. So they were good friends. And I would go and visit my stepfather for Christmas and that sort of thing. This is when I was still at university. Also living in Spain. I know. So they were good friends. And I would go and visit my stepfather for Christmas and that sort of thing. This is when I was still at university. And one year I went for Christmas and my father said, hey, I want you to meet my friend's grandchildren. I was like, okay, cool. Thinking little babies.
Was this a setup or?
I don't know. I thought they were little babies. Nobody told me anything. And then I meet this gorgeous young man and we get chatting, and he's also living in the UK. He was just there to see his grandmother. And yeah, the rest is history. We moved in together in the UK, and then we got married, had our firstborn, our son, and we moved to Uganda.
So the decision to move to Uganda, how was he about that? Had he visited?
Yes, he had. We'd been together for quite some time, about 5 years before we got married. So I did bring him to Uganda, and he met the family, and that was in probably, when was that, 95? Something like that. So it was a bit rough in Uganda at that point. We went to Moya Lodge, we went all around. It was different.
Okay.
It was different.
From what it is now.
Yes, but he met everybody. He met the family, and we actually went to New York to meet my uncles as well. So, you know, I don't think anybody was surprised that we got married.
So coming back wasn't a shock, or?
I think I probably didn't give him much choice.
Okay.
I just woke up one day, I said, you know what, my love, we need to go.
Okay. And he's like, all right.
Yes. It's what I think actually said, I'm going. Please come too. And he was like, okay. But I mean, it made sense. Even financially, starting with a family, it made sense. I mean, the rents we were paying in London, in Notting Hill, compared to having a home and fresh food, fresh pineapple, fresh avocados. You know, your world changes. You're not interested in going out to nice restaurants and eating sushi anymore. You're thinking about your child. You're thinking about fresh food and sunshine and, you know, great childcare and so
everything has changed.
Yeah, so it made sense.
So you come back passionate about human rights, and that's also kind of what brought you back.
Yes, it was, because I really wanted to get great experience. I wanted to get in there, you know, roll up my sleeves and start fixing the world.
So did you get like a job before you moved back, or you came back and started
No,
looking?
I came back and started from here. And luckily enough, what I did was I had family here, a lot of family here. And what I did was I went and volunteered for what we call FIDA, Women Lawyers, right? In Bukoto Street. So I started there, and that was a great place to start. You know, they do some great work, and it was legal aid, and it was, you know, understanding the system here in Uganda, and it was, you know, kind of jumping in there. And as I was volunteering there, I met a formidable woman who has since passed on, a lady called Barbara Harold Bond, American lady, who was doing research at MISA, at Makerere.
Okay.
And she'd done research on refugees and a lot of the people who ended up in Sudan from Uganda as refugees over there. And of course, we've been a refugee hosting country forever, right? So she sort of grabbed me, actually, and at this point I was pregnant with my second. So I do things with my children. And she grabbed me and she said, you must come and work with me on the project that I was doing. So there I was, I turned up at MISA, and we started the Refugee Law Project under the Faculty of Law. Dr. Joe Oloka Nyango was the dean at that time, who was also fantastic. And we started the Refugee Law Project.
Okay.
Which is still going 20 years later.
All right, so that's how you started working with Makerere.
Yeah.
Okay, how long were you part of that project?
Well, I was the founding director, and that was 99. And then I continued to work with them till about 2005. This is when I had my third child. That's when Ruby was born. Not as a founding director to begin with, and then doing a lot of training. I went all over Uganda, training in all the refugee hosting districts. But by then, I'd passed on the directorship to Dr. Zachary Lomo, and it just kept growing from there. But I stopped at that point. I was like, let me just stay home for a bit and raise the family. It was quite hectic. So I did that, and yeah.
So you pressed pause?
Yeah, I pressed pause.
Let me take care of affairs at home.
Yeah. And also at the time I was doing a lot of music. And I wanted to focus on that a little bit as well.
How did that begin? Because you said that only happened when you came back to Uganda.
Yes.
The music side.
Well, as my children were young, I felt it was really important to get them engaged, to find out what they really love to do. And I thought, well, I can't really do that for my children if I haven't done it for myself. It's kind of a bit hypocritical, right?
What are you saying about us parents? That's what most of us do. We're like, ooh,
no.
I want you to try this.
Come out of the closet, people. Come out, and don't pretend that it's your children you want to do that when it's you who really wants to do that. So music was always a passion. I'd always wanted to horse ride. I'd always wanted to get my fingers into gardening and plants and trees and things. So I took that time. And I bumped into a wonderful set of musicians who were the Blood Brothers, Uganda's foremost amazing reggae band. And I jokingly said, oh, I'd love to come and sing for you. And they were like, well, come on then. Like, okay. And so
most people say, I'll call you back.
No, I said, let me do that. And so it began.
Okay.
And from there, it was literally a baptism of fire. I just got on stage and started singing, backing to Bob Marley's covers. Like, yeah, I can do this. And they really taught me a lot. They taught me all about live music. They taught me about events. They taught me about putting shows and stages together.
I remember coming for your show.
Right. We were nominated for the very first Pam Awards. Remember the Pam Awards? Yeah, I performed at the very first Pam Awards. But we'd also been part of setting up the stage and all the scaffolding and all of that stuff. We went on tour to West Nile one year, and we did Arua and Koboko and taking the lorry with the stage, with the sound system, setting it all up, getting on stage, performing, packing it all down, back on the lorry, onto the next town. So they taught me a lot.
And you're still with them though?
No, we moved on, and I set up my own band called Miss Natty and the Majestics.
Okay.
Still working with a couple of the members from the Blood Brothers, namely Alex Guma. And we were here at the Sheraton singing every Wednesday, and at Lotus Mexicana. Do you remember Lotus Mexicana? And at Bubble. So that was a real time of like 3 or 4 gigs in a week, and then other private functions for ambassadors and things like that. So it was a whirlwind. It was fun. And then I moved on and started collaborating, working in studio, which I hadn't done before. So composing and recording in studio, which was a new thing, and making videos and stuff. So that was a period of doing that. So I sort of drifted away from the Blood Brothers and pure reggae, and
that's when you became Miss Natty.
That's when I became Miss
Natty. As your own artist.
Exactly.
How would you describe yourself as an artist?
As an artist?
Yeah.
Bold. Bold. I love to compose. I think my music comes from things that I'm passionate about. I don't really write that many love songs, but I do write about how I feel about our nation, how I feel about our human rights situations, how I feel about my anciency and ancestry. I wrote a song about my father and how I felt about that, about growing up without my father, although I had my stepfather.
Yes.
So writing songs which are very all about self-esteem, all about if you're knocked down, get up, you know, that sort of music. But then very much with a reggae background, also with a jazz background. And I think, yeah, I think I'm in my own lane. I think I've created my own lane.